Hi, I'm Sam and I'm here with Elmo, Shropshire. I'm on behalf of the Dipsea Race talking to various Dipsea figures, and I'm really excited to have Elmo with me today. Thank you for joining me, Elmo. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing well. I heard that you just were competing in the last few weeks, still running. That's awesome. Can you tell me what you've been up to lately?
Well, I just came back from Fort Lauderdale. They had the National Senior Games there. And I just turned 85, so I'm trying to make hay while I can. And I did win the 800 meter, 1500 meter, and 5K there.
That's awesome. Representing Marin and the Dipsea Race super well all over.
And
That's
the
awesome.
Tamalpa runners, yes.
Congratulations. So you have a long history of the race, and I've been asking many current Dipsea runners and contenders, for black shirts and the wins about their running history and how they got started running both in general and running the Dipsea Race. So could you tell me a little bit about what got you into running initially and into the Dipsea?
Well, my wife Pam got me into running, and she used to run 10, 15 miles a few times a week. And I started running with her, but I could only run I'd run a half a mile out with her and then turn around and run a half mile back. And then a neighbor of mine, Jim Clark, who lived in Larkspur, said, I want to show you the Dipsea. So I went up and we ran the Dipsea one day, and I was not up for that. I said, I would never, ever consider doing this. This is the worst hurt I've ever experienced. And then later on that same year, I got a hold of Barry Spitz's book. And I read Barry's book, and I was so intrigued by all these people that I said, well, maybe I'll try it. And I think maybe like in 95 or 96 was the first time. And when I ran it, it was so unbelievable. I felt like I was in the movie Fitzcarraldo by Werner Herzog, where they pulled this big giant boat over a mountain, and a lot of people died doing it. For some reason, it felt like that to me. And I thought, how can they ever get away with this? Why wouldn't they get sued a lot?
So it sounds like you had a very strong impression the first time you were on the trail. Do you remember from your first Dipsea race that year, or it was in your first few years running it? Was there any race or moment that stood out to you in those early years?
Well, yes. Some people at that time, there were a lot of shortcuts. And I can remember running, straight down the trail, and suddenly a couple of people come crashing right through trees, right to the side of the trail. And they'd be then run on down the trail. And I thought, where did they come from? Sure, they'll be disqualified, but they weren't.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a fun quirk that stands out. And when you're practicing it, it's certainly a different atmosphere than when you have people crashing out of the woods from random places. So, how many years did you run in the actual race?
17 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what would you say? So you said the shortcuts are definitely a change, with the closures of many of them in recent decades. One change. Is there any other changes that you've noticed about the race in general over those many years?
There are a lot of parts that they straightened out and flattened out. Up like after you pass the Hogs Back and Cardiac, we used to go over a lot of rougher territory there, and they straightened that out a lot. So I think it's a faster race in general.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, Lone Tree, the trail just kind of beyond the crest of Cardiac.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. I think I got to run it 1 or 2 years before they did that. So got a little bit of experience when it was a little bit rougher. But yeah, that definitely changes kind of the outlook for the fastest time and everyone's time goals throughout the course. So what would you say is your favorite Dipsea memory of all the 17 races that you've competed in?
Well, I guess my favorite memory would be my highest finish, which was 73. And I was ecstatic over that. And I had only been running it for maybe 2 or 3 years when I finished 73. And the great thing is the next morning I get the Marin IJ. Everybody gets the Marin IJ and start looking for their name in there. And so I was standing down in Larkspur where I lived, and a couple of Dipsea people came up to get papers. We're looking through there and I said, oh my God, I finished 73. Now, after that, I thought, no problem. Something, I'm gonna like to be top 100, from now on. I can just sit back on my laurels. Well, for another 15 years, I finally got up to 78, but definitely that race, you can't take anything for granted.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, that's never something I've been able to achieve, getting in the double digits and getting your number on your bib the next year. That's a pretty big deal. So that must have been quite a feeling to see your name so high up.
It was, absolutely.
Awesome. And is there any particular part of the race or the course in general that makes you nervous each year, or made you nervous each year when you compete, that you'd be dreading?
Well, I dread the uphill. I was never a good uphill runner. However, early in my Dipsea running, Russ Kiernan took me up there and he said, I'm going to show you how to run the downhill. And it's true. He knew every step that he was going to take. And when we got to the stairs in Steep Ravine, he ran almost that entire stretch on the side of the stairs, not on the stairs. And of course, you can run much faster if you don't mind taking your life into your own hands.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess that was one of the great things that I learned from Russ Kiernan in Dipsea.
Yeah, that's awesome to have a personal run through with Russ. I don't think there are too many runners who've been able to have that experience. That's really nice. Yeah, just what does the Dipsea mean to you in general as a local, celebrity? I mean, I knew you as a teenager as that singer who runs the songwriter who runs the Dipsea, more than anything else. Like, do you feel like it's had a big impact on your identity, or I mean, you're a big runner, but what impact has the Dipsea had on you?
Well, the impact it has on me, it's just an incredibly wonderful, what should I say, kinship or brotherhood of suffering. And I just became enamored with everyone who would run the Dipsea, no matter how they finished. Anyone who finished the Dipsea, I thought I really had a kinship with. And I think all the Dipsea runners feel that way. You meet anyone who's run the Dipsea and you say, I know you, we suffered together. Isn't it great?
That's great. Yeah. And I totally agree about the feeling of at the finish line of, what everyone's been through together. And there's such a community devotion for the race. It's something really nice that I've never seen in any other race anywhere in the country, for sure. Well, thank you, Elmo, for spending a few minutes talking with me about the Dipsea. It was really nice of you to take time out of your evening, and that's so cool that you're still competing and going for the wins, getting wins. That's something I think that all runners might aspire to, but especially Dipsea runners, where running, into your older years is something that is really respected, and you're able to get those minutes and maybe finish high up. So that's
absolutely, Sam.
Yeah, thank you so much.